Turner Field in Atlanta, Georgia. Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball tonight. The Mets play the Atlanta Braves. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. The latest lineup of cars and SUVs you'll find at your local Hyundai dealer aren't just new, they're better. By M&T Bank. What's important to you is important at M&T Bank. Learn more at mtb.com/meet us. By Infinity. Visit your local Infinity retailer for a test drive. By Raymore and Flanagan Furniture, furnishing your style. By Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And by ChevyOffers.com. Now, there are a few places that revere the home run more than Turner Field. After all, they have Hank Aaron in statuary outside. And last night, Curtis Granderson made like Hank Aaron. Of course, he's always friendly with the fans. That's just what Curtis is all about. But last night's second inning, he drilled one into the right field stands for his first grand slam as a Met, and it felt so good that 2 innings later got a similar pitch and did a similar thing. His second home run of the night, a 5 RBI night for Granderson in a 6-3 Mets win. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Turner Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Braves. Mets are now 5-2 on the road trip, and Curtis Granderson is having a good road trip. But you also have to consider the totality of Curtis's career. Came up as a speedster with the Tigers, became a power hitter with the Yankees, and now has settled into the leadoff spot later in his career as a Met.
Well, he really was last year, was put into that leadoff role around 2 months into the season, or a month and a half. He took right to it. But this season, so far, he has struggled. Coming into this series, hitting 175, but he broke out last night, what you just saw there with the grand slam that gave the Mets the early lead. And he's a very big key to this ball club, Gary. He's in the leadoff role. He's got a good lineup behind him. He is the catalyst to this team. They need him to get on base. And boy, it was great to see him break out in a very big way last night.
He's been a part of that 21 home runs in the last 7 games for the Mets, their best home run stretch over 7 games ever. And Steven Matz will try and be the beneficiary of that tonight. Matz coming off a tremendous second start of the year in Cleveland.
Well, he's pitching against a 4-12 Brave team that's rebuilding. He had the terrible start, his first start of the season. Boy, he pitched brilliantly in Cleveland earlier in this road trip. 7 strong scoreless innings with 9 strikeouts. He's looking to keep the train rolling for this Mets team. They're 5-2 on this trip, looking to go 6-2.
Last night, the Braves ran out a veteran starter in Bud Norris. Tonight, it's Jhoulys Chacín, the former Rocky.
Well, another veteran right here. This Brave team, as we said, is rebuilding right now. A lot of shoulder problems, but he's the one Brave starter that's had 2 good starts so far this year. He's got 14 strikeouts and 11 1/3 innings. No wins to show for it, but an ERA well below 3.
Mets have never had much luck against Chacín. They'll try and hit him tonight as the Mets and Braves continue their series in traffic-busy Atlanta. All the action coming your way on Pix 11. record, the more you save. Every strikeout thrown by a Mets pitcher against the Phillies and Braves saves you 1% off select tickets to the upcoming homestand April 25th through May the 4th. So far, the Mets have recorded 42 strikeouts, meaning fans will receive at least a 42% discount. For more information, visit Mets.com/strikeouts. Themes of the game brought to you by your local Hyundai dealer. Keith?
Well, as you can see, we've got the Georgia flavor here since we're down in Atlanta, feeling peachy. You see the Mets just feasting on the long ball. There's unsweetened left-handed tea. Look at Matz in his young career, what he's done to left-handed batters as far as extra base hits. And no traffic here. There's been tons of traffic, folks. Don't believe that for a second.
Stephen Matz will hope to keep it sweet. Mets and Braves first pitch coming up. Signs autographs morning, noon, and night with that glove perched on his cap. As friendly a dude as there is.
He's like our old colleague Ralph Kiner. Ralph never turned down an autograph.
And Curtis hoping to keep the good feelings going tonight after a big night last night. Let's check out the starting lineup brought to you by Nissan Shop. ChooseNissan.com. No Yoenis Cespedes. He aggravated the bruise on his right leg sliding to second base last night, so he's going to sit tonight. Might have to sit tomorrow as well. Juan Lagares gets the call in center field. Everybody else moves up a spot in the batting order, putting Duda back in the cleanup spot where he had been earlier in the season.
And Jhoulys Chacín, the veteran right-hander from Venezuela, came up in 09 with Colorado. His best season was in 13 with Colorado, where he won 14 ball games. But he's had a series of injuries over the years. But you can see his numbers right now. He's off to a very good start in his first 2 starts.
Shoulder problems the last couple of years for Chacín. Spent most of last year in the minor leagues.
And we'll take a look at the defense brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Markakis, Stubbs, now left-hander out there. You got Francoeur and Stubbs in the outfield. Infield the same, pretty much. A struggling Freddie Freeman at the plate. And behind the plate, the platoon, Tyler Flowers, gets the start.
Curtis Granderson leads off. First pitch from Chacín is low and inside, and we're underway. Curtis over the last 3 games, 6 for 13, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, so he has really begun to pick it up since Philadelphia. Mets are 5-2 on this road trip. They've been hitting home runs in droves, and Granderson has started to pitch into that. 3 of the 21 home runs the Mets have hit in the 7 games on this trip. Ball and a strike to Granderson. David Wright on deck, then Michael Conforto, as the Mets try and get off to a good start against Chacín, who has never allowed a home run against the Mets despite facing them exclusively as a Rocky. And that stands in good stead to the way Chacín was able to pitch at Coors Field.
Well, you can see right now he's a sinker ball pitcher, like gets a lot of ground balls. It's just astounding and astonishing the 21 home runs in this road trip, Gary, the Mets have hit. That is an obvious Met record.
Well, especially if you contrast it with the Braves, who have not hit a single home run in their last 11 games. Granderson, only the second Met leadoff hitter in history to put together a 2-home run, 5 RBI game. Greg Jeffries was the other. 2-2 from Chacin, and it's poked into left center field. On comes Stubbs. He'll have to play it on a couple of hops, and Granderson has a leadoff hit for the 3rd straight game.
Well, leadoff hitter starting to catch fire. Curtis slightly open in his stance, does that toe tap. That's a good pitch right there. Went right with it. A good sinking fastball.
So Granderson aboard now. David Wright. David had a double late in yesterday's game to snap an 0 for 13 stretch that saw him strike out 8 times. Didn't ask Terry Collins. In fact, I don't think any of the writers did whether David's going to sit tomorrow. Day games after night games have been generally days off for David early in the season. He grounds one off his leg, a foul ball.
I got to think that he'll probably give him an off day tomorrow. The Mets come home with no off day. They obviously the day game tomorrow. They play 3 with the Reds, 3 with the Giants over the weekend, and then 3 more with the Braves.
David certainly is going to require periodic rest because of his back condition, but there's another piece to that too. As Chacin misses low with the breaking ball, and that is Wilmer Flores has to get some playing time.
Yes, he does. Wilmer just hasn't. He's 1 for 17, and it's a tough spot for Wilmer sitting on the bench to get spot play,
especially after being a regular most of last year. A good cutter by Chacin to get ahead on Wright, 1-2. Chacin will throw everything in the book. He's added a cutter the last couple of years since the shoulder problems acted up. Sliders, curveballs, changeups to go with his sinker. Won't top out much more than about 89, 90 miles an hour. But he had the 2nd best ERA of any starter in Rockies history. There's strike 3 called as he sinks one on the inside corner, and that's the first out of the night.
Well, you're always vulnerable inside with 2 strikes behind an account. You have to protect, and that just ties David up, and he knew it was a strike. No complaint, right on the corner. Good pitch.
The only Rocky with more than 50 starts who had a better ERA was Ubaldo Jimenez, and Chacin is 2nd on that all-time list. And you know, if you can pitch there, you've got a pretty good idea what you're doing. Here's Conforto, 1 for 5 last night, and Michael goes after a first pitch changeup, 0-1.
1 for 5 last night and hit 4 rockets.
See, the sun is not completely down. Some sunlight casting on the right fielder Markakis as we begin play a half hour earlier than we did last night. See, now if we had started the game at 7 o'clock last night, we probably wouldn't have had a rain delay.
No, we would not.
It might have been over before the rains came.
The home plate umpire, Mr. Kellogg, Jeff Kellogg, who left the game and is not in the crew today.
He's been replaced by Greg Gibson after Kellogg took a foul ball off his mask and was forced to leave. A couple of change-ups to Conforto, and it's 1-2. There's Greg Gibson, who's joined the crew. He's the crew chief. John Tumpane has the plate. Lance Barksdale at first. Alan Porter, who moved behind the plate last night, is at second base tonight. Lucas Duda waits on deck. Granderson at first and 1 out. And Conforto grounds one toward the middle, a base hit. Granderson will go first to third, and the Mets have runners at the corners with 1 out. So teams have been shifting against Conforto, putting 3 infielders on the right side. Braves didn't do it, and Conforto found the middle with the diamond.
Good 2-strike hitting here. A mistake by Chacin. Threw him first 3 pitches all off speed. Curtis right here can smell third base. He knew it right away. No help from his third base coach. And this is a fastball meant to be in, and look where it is. It's out right. A mistake by Chacin out over the plate. Good 2-strike hitting by the youngster.
Well, the Mets scored in the first inning on the first 5 games of this trip. Last 2 games they put runners on in the first inning and left them stranded. And now Duda lifts one to center, and that should get a run in. Stubbs over in the gap. Granderson tagging, and Curtis will come home with the first run of the night. Sacrifice fly for Lucas Duda, and the Mets have an early 1-0 lead. So that is 6 times in 8 games on this road trip. The Mets have scored in the top of the first run of the game, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Nice to see Duda attacking the first pitch in an RBI situation.
Well, it's nice to see him. I don't care where he gets it, if it's 5 pitches deep or the first pitch, Gary. We see so many people struggle to hit sacrifice flies to get the runner in that easy RBI when a runner on third, less than 2 outs.
It's an area where the Mets as a team have struggled so far this year, but Duda gets the run in, his 11th RBI. Now Neil Walker with a runner at first and 2 out. Walker 1 for 4 last night. Top 10 in the National League in slugging percentage. 6 home runs, tied for 4th in the league, as Walker's gotten off to a fast start and has had a tremendous road trip.
11 RBIs. And very productive and hitting with power.
3 for 9 in his career against Chacin. Good curveball. 0-2.
I think the surprise from Walker so far this season, Gary, has been his hitting from the right side of the plate.
Mets still have seen only one left-handed starter this season. They'll see a second one Tuesday night in the second game of the series against the Reds when Brandon Finnegan faces them. Knocked down by Flowers, and Conforto stays put.
I know it's early in the season right now, but a Walker currently against left-handers in this young season is 7 for 11 and with 3 home runs.
Well, he made a slight adjustment, eliminated his toe tap from the right side, and whether that has anything to do with it, his numbers are off the charts, but obviously very limited at bats, with the Mets just not seeing very many left-handed pitchers.
And he said he really responded to Terry having confidence in him from the right side.
There goes Conforto, and Flowers double clutches, and Conforto steals the base. So it looked like Flowers was completely caught off guard by Conforto, who's not generally a base stealer.
Well, I think he had a chance to throw him out, and you certainly don't want to. If you're going to steal a base with your red hot hitter up right here, not a great jump, and I think he would have been toast.
And that is Michael Conforto's first major league stolen base. So he's in scoring position with 2 out. It's only the Mets' 4th stolen base of the season. They're dead last in the National League in steals. And Walker lays off the changeup. They check at third. Greg Gibson says no swing. 3-2. So after Chacin got ahead on Walker, 2 strikes, he's run it full with Asdrubal Cabrera waiting on deck. It's really made opposing pitchers work in the first inning this entire road trip. There's been no easy first frame. 3-2. And Walker takes a walk, his first walk of the season after 62 official at bats. Walker, who averages about 50 walks a year, you can see him smiling. He's been waiting for that, wondering when he would get his first walk, and now he finally has it. It's been a source of some conversation in the clubhouse. He's a delightful guy, by the way.
He certainly is. He's a professional.
So 2 out and 2 on. He's also pumped up, you know, because his Penguins eliminated the Rangers this afternoon.
6-3. Huh? They kind of clean their clock. However, the Islanders are in it.
They are. Last New York winter sports team left standing. Here's Cabrera with 2 out and 2 on. And he takes the sinker low.
This is a very balanced lineup, and you've got Cespedes out of the lineup today. Terry opted to sit him down. He kind of re-injured. I can't say re-injured, just re-bruised his thigh where he.
Pickoff try, and Conforto gets back. It trickles away, but backed up by Castro, so he can't go very far.
But you've got a nice balance of left-hand and right-hand hitters, and I'm coming from those St. Louis teams, Gary. We had there a lot of switch hitters. Tommy Herr and Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee. That's, to me, is the opposing manager's nightmare. The Mets have 2 of them.
By the way, remember after Cespedes re-aggravated that bruise at second base on a slide last night, Cabrera had a little problem on a slide where he dug his right hand into the ground and he was shaking it and rubbing it. Turned out he jammed his wrist, and he had a doctor examine it after the game and said he was fine today, good to go, and here he is right back in the lineup.
Well, right in the lineup, hitting .315, off to a good start.
Just seen behind him 2-0, and Cabrera pulls one down to first, right through Freddie Freeman and down the right field line. Conforto scores. Walker to third. He'll be held up there. Cabrera winds up at second on the error by Freddie Freeman, and the Mets have a 2-0 lead. The normally sure-handed Freeman saw that one go right through him.
Well, things are going the Mets' way right here, and that's just a botch right there. Let's take a look at the glove work. Didn't get the glove down. Went under the glove. That's what happens.
Well, we've heard the Braves and opposing teams complaining about the conditions on the infield since the start of the season here at Turner Field, but it's hard to blame that one on the conditions.
You cannot. That did not take a bad hop. That was the floodgates opening. Needed the Dutch boy. Put a plug in it.
Well, Roger McDowell, the Braves pitching coach, out at the mound trying to settle down Chacin, for whom the inning should have been over. Instead, the Mets have 2 runs home and 2 in scoring position as Travis d'Arnaud comes to the plate.
Well, d'Arnaud is the last of the Mets regulars to get untracked. Coming into the game hitting .158. I just sense that he has been just over swinging a little bit. Needs to just get more compact hit line drives.
0 for 3 last night, and he takes a strike on the outside. d'Arnaud, who has been down in the 8th spot in the batting order, moved up to number 7 tonight. Perhaps that'll provide him some solace. Walker at third, Cabrera at second, and 2 out. That's hit hard toward the hole. Nice stop by Ibar. The long throw to make, scooped out by Freeman, and the side retires. So d'Arnaud, who's been accustomed in this ballpark of being robbed of hits by Andrelton Simmons, sees Simmons' replacement Ibar do the same. Mets got a couple in the first. ChooseNissan.com with a lefty on the mound. Jeff Francoeur and Tyler Flowers and Drew Stubbs all get starts tonight. Only 2 lefties in the lineup against Matz. That's Markakis and Freeman, who play every day.
There's the Long Islander. Off a tremendous start in Cleveland, a tremendous bounce back start. He has beaten the Braves before in his young career, and ironically, he beat them on September 11th last year right here in Atlanta. He went 5 innings. Gave up 1 run. And we'll look at the Mets defense. It's brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Curtis Lagares in there today. Cespedes down. Don't get hurt defensively with Lagares in center field. He's been doing great off the bench. The same guys out there in the infield. That is your regulars. And behind the plate, d'Arnaud, who they're trying to get going, get the bat hot again.
Just the third start of the year for Lagares, but it's the 12th of the 16 games he's been in. He's been in for defensive purposes just about every day.
And Juan has done a good job with the bat coming off the bench.
Nick Markakis leads off 0 for 4 last night and 0 for his last 11, and he takes outside from Matz. Markakis was off to a hot start, but he's cooled down the last few days. Still 10th in the league in on base percentage at .397 at the top of the Braves batting order. And Matz darts a fastball in for a strike, 1-1. Steven had a very rough first outing of the year, but was able to put that behind him with those 7 scoreless innings in Cleveland. Made great use of his curveball in that game. And there's the curveball slapped on the ground to Walker. And Markakis retired 1 away.
Well, I remember the last outing in Cleveland. He came out throwing predominantly fastballs, Gary, and he was up against Kluber, the ace, who he bested, Cleveland ace. But he got his rhythm, and he said in the paper that when they got him the runs early, it was just what he needed. They got him 6 runs in the first 2 innings. He said it kind of loosened me up. That's just what the doctor ordered.
And he's 2 runs to the good as he takes the mound tonight. First pitch curveball outside to Daniel Castro. Dan Warthen back with the club today after attending his mom's funeral in Nebraska yesterday. Castro bluffs a bunt and takes outside. Also back with the club today is Jacob deGrom, who will pitch tomorrow for the Mets. There's Freddie Freeman on deck. It's nice to see Jacob back with the club. It's been a couple of weeks since he's been around. Of course, he was home with his wife and his young son Jackson, who is home and doing well. He's been home for 5 days. He's had no further difficulties, and Jacob was in great spirits in the clubhouse before the game today. And I think he is itching to get back out there tomorrow. He got a ton of well-wishers today, including Chipper Jones, who came into the Mets clubhouse, which was, I have to say, kind of odd. Chipper in the Mets clubhouse. Yes. But he and deGrom are good friends. They're from the same part of Florida, have the same agent. 2-2 for Matz and a swinging strike to get Castro for the second out.
There's an outstanding yellow hammer right there. This is fairly wicked.
He went away from his curveball in the first start. Threw a lot of sliders. You know, he, like Noah Syndergaard, has picked up a slider since being in the big leagues. But his curveball is tremendous. Here's Freeman, who's 1 for 5 last night, and he takes a fastball for a strike at 96 from Steven. It's been an awful start for Freeman, and you wonder whether his difficulties at the plate now are carrying into the field after that last error he made.
Well, he had the wrist problem last year. They eased him into spring training, and you just don't know if he's lost some strength. They say his bat's a tad slower.
Fly ball toward the left field line. Conforto coming on, and he dives, but he can't get it. It's a foul ball. That ball played tricks. The wind is blowing fairly stiff in from left field, and it seemed to grab that ball and confuse Conforto.
Foul by around.
Fortunate it was foul.
Yeah, foul by a foot there.
When that ball first went up, it was in fair territory, but the wind really played some tricks with it.
Well, you look at the flags, Gare, and the center field United States flag is it's definitely blowing in from left.
It's trying to make up its mind.
It's like it's caught somewhere, huh?
Freeman takes strike 3 called. 95 on the black from Matz, and Steven Matz off to a stellar start. 1-2-3 with a couple of strikeouts. Number 8 hitter Juan Lagares will lead off in the second against Jhoulys Chacín. Lagares 5 for 15 to start the year, and Terry Collins had a choice tonight with Cespedes out of the lineup. He could have put Alejandro De Aza, the left-hand batter, in there against Chacín. Lefties have done better against Chacín than righties over the course of his career, but he wanted Juan's defense, and he also wanted De Aza's left-handed bat on the bench.
Absolutely. So De Aza is in a rock and a hard spot as far as looking for playing time, being the lone left-hand hitter on the bench.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking before about Flores and the fact that he has struggled with a lack of playing time as Lagares gets on the cutter and lines it into center field for another hit. So Juan continues to hit line drives every time up. Now 6 for 16 to start the year.
Hanging curve. Still not that bad a pitch. Juan stayed in. Had too much plate, but he could have pulled off. Look at that drive, that shoulder in right after it. Well done.
So the Mets have a leadoff base runner. Steven Matz will get his first plate appearance of the year.
And he won't be able to swing the bat.
I think I'd let him swing the bat.
I'd bunt.
Remember what he did his first game last year?
I know, I do remember. Let me tell you, all these Met pitchers can hit.
And a history-making performance at the plate in his major league debut. He takes a strike. But his first start this year, Matz never got to the plate because he got knocked out in the second inning. And then his second start of the year was in Cleveland, so there was a DH, and he didn't get to bat. So he finally gets to the plate. Anyway, I was going to say we were talking about Flores and his lack of playing time. And Lagares has, had just as few at bats as Flores has. Chopped off the plate. Nice bunt. Will it stay fair? No, it was foul. But the difference is twofold. One, Lagares got used to this role last year because once Cespedes got here, this was basically what he got. He got starts against lefties and he was used for defense. But I think also he gets in the game almost every day, which has to have some impact on his ability to stay sharp, whereas Flores is basically just sitting and waiting for the odd start or pinch hitting opportunity.
Yes, I agree with you a tad, Garrett, but still there's no substitute to getting 4 at bats and getting into the rhythm offensively. As a hitter, it's difficult. It's a very the toughest job in baseball, I feel, is being in our day the 10th pitcher in the bullpen who very rarely pitches. Hard to keep his rhythm, and it's all about rhythm.
That's showing bunt on 0-2. And he bunts it. They'll let it trickle, and Freeman has to pick it up, and they just get Matz at first base. Looked for a while as though it was going to go foul, but there came a point where Freeman couldn't wait any longer, and the sacrifice was successful.
And why couldn't he wait any longer? Look at Matz. He's hustling down the line. If Matz had just kind of dropped it into third gear and given Freeman a little more time, the ball might have gone foul. But he forced the issue. He forced Freddie to make the play.
What's your cutoff point there? Is it when the guy goes by you?
Well, it depends on where you're positioned on the baseline too. So it varies here.
So Lagares at second with 1 out. Here's Granderson, who had a base hit and scored in the first inning. And Curtis takes the sinker off the plate. Ball 1. So Curtis now 4 for 6 in this series, 7 for 14 over the last 4 games. So things are decidedly looking up. Last year he didn't hit a lick the first 3 weeks of the season either. But really kicked it in gear after that and had a tremendous season.
Curtis, the one thing that he doesn't provide anymore as a leadoff hitter, when you mentioned in the open, is that he doesn't steal bases anymore. He has no attempts this year.
Stole 11 last year, but I mean there was a time when he was a 25 stolen base guy. Flies this one on the infield, and right there is Castro to grab it for the second out. So 2 away. Lagares still at second. Now David Wright, who took a call third strike his first time up.
Ironically, it was Neil Walker's first walk of the season when he got up the first inning. It was also Chacín's first walk issued this season.
Right. First 2 starts, 11 1/3 innings, no walks, 14 strikeouts. He's never been a particularly low walk pitcher. Lifetime 3.7 walks per 9 innings. That's not particularly low. But he had been able to keep the decks clear the first start. Threw 6 scoreless innings in Washington in his first start, and then gave up 3 runs against Miami in his second start. Breaking ball off the plate, 2-0 to Wright.
Well, it's a good pitch to hit here for David. You've got the Conforto, the left-hander, behind him. And I think Chacín wants to go after David, the righty-righty confrontation here.
Two and one to David. We were talking about Chacín and the way he's pitched against the Mets over the years. You look at that fastball thrown by David. The Mets now have 100 career at-bats against Chacín with no home runs. And that's, you know, facing him at Coors Field a couple of starts. His lifetime ERA against the Mets, 2.88. That's driven out to right field along the line and foul. 2-2 to Wright.
Now let's see if Chacín pulls the ultimate mistake here and throws a little wrinkle to David instead of staying with a fastball in. Remember, he struck him out the first time up with a fastball in. He beat David on 2 fastballs behind in the count. 2-0 and 2-1.
Lagares at second with 2 down. 2-2 coming. And he comes up and in to David, full count. Chacín released last year in spring training by the Rockies after spending 6 years there. Signed by Cleveland, released later in the year, signed by Arizona, spent most of the year in the minors, then got 4 starts late in the year with the Diamondbacks, didn't pitch badly. And then signed with the Braves. Foul back.
Castro playing with David way up the middle, and you've seen 2 at-bats from David behind on every pitch. Why would you play your second baseman up the middle and give David a big hole? Even though Freeman's way out, why would you give him that right side of the infield?
David's been attacking right field on this road trip. The 2 home runs to right in Philly, had a double to right last night. 3-2. Popped it up. Who's going to get it? Right fielder Markakis, playing relatively shallow, is there, and that retires the side. So a leadoff hit, but Lagares is stranded. Still 2-0 New York. Which happens to be the place where Prince performed his last concert before he passed away this week.
57 years
57.
old? Way too young.
And what a genius.
Very talented man.
So influential on so many different branches of music. As Adonis Garcia takes a strike from Steven Matz, and he will be sorely missed. What a year, losing Bowie and Prince. About as two as multi-talented musical performances this country is, or this world has developed over the last half century or so. It's crazy. Adonis Garcia 3 for 5 last night, hitting a .309 for the year. And he shoots one over the bag, a fair ball going down the line. Granderson over quickly to get it. Garcia takes a hard turn and holds at first base. Would have been an interesting play had he tried for 2. Granderson doesn't have the greatest arm, but Garcia didn't want to chance it.
Well, I would always tell my players, always challenge the arm of Curtis. I think he hits a leadoff, try to get a leadoff double here, right down the line.
So the first base runner against Steven Matz, and now Tyler Flowers steps in. Flowers been platooning behind the plate with A.J. Przinsky, who had 3 hits last night.
Another Chicago White Sox, Flowers.
Spent his entire career with the White Sox before this season, but he was originally drafted by the Braves. Another guy who was drafted by the Braves and is back with them, like Kelly Johnson, like Jeff Francoeur.
The sun is setting
right in the eyes of those fans in right field.
Yes, they are. And Flowers has got a little bit of pop. 10-15 home runs. Big guy.
That's ahead of him 0-2, and he gets him with a curveball. Third strikeout from Matz. Follow Mets baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. 3 strikeouts for Matz in the early going. 1 out and 1 on. Now Jeff Francoeur. Frenchie appeared last night as a pinch hitter, lasted 1 pitch and grounded out.
Back to his original roots, so to speak, with the Braves.
I thought you meant hacking at the first pitch. So Matz bounced the first one to Frenchie. So he goes after the second one. David Wright with a great pickup, and his sidearm throw is not in time. David did a great job of snagging that ball, but it took him a long time to get rid of it. And Francoeur has an infield hit.
Well, David made the choice of not going to second. Nice play on the dive. And he's looking, and I guess he felt he didn't have a shot at second base. And Lucas had no reason to come off the bag there. He could have stretched. I don't know why he's not on the bag.
He stretches, they might have had him. It's a good call.
I'm befuddled.
So 2 hits in the inning. And now Eric Ibar, the #7 hitter, who's really been struggling at the plate. And Ibar takes a fastball for a strike. Ibar hitting just .148. Lifetime .270 hitter after 10 years in Anaheim, now in the National League for the first time.
1 for 19 against left-handers so far this year. I think Lucas just fell asleep there. Didn't think that David was going to go to first. You've got to be on the bag.
I mean, the throw hit his mitt before Francoeur hit the bag. So if he stretches to catch that ball,
it's a 5-3 on your scorecard.
As long as he can reach it, which he probably could have.
I think so. I know so.
Third time in the inning, Matz has been ahead 0-2. And Ibar chops one slowly. Walker is going to have to go to first with it and gets the out on Ibar as the runners move up. And we'll see what Terry does with the 8-hitter Stubbs with first base open. Joe Release Chacin is a pretty good hitting pitcher, so that could affect Terry's choice. You got the tying runs in scoring position. Garcia at third, Francoeur at second with 2 out.
2-run lead, go after him.
And that's what the Mets look like they'll do, especially a guy like Stubbs who has trouble making contact. Always been a high strikeout guy. Released in spring training by the Rangers this year, picked up by the Braves right at the end of March. And Stubbs takes low and in for ball 1. Well, Steven Matz has had 2 starts before this, diametrically opposed. Horrible against Miami, fantastic against Cleveland.
Slowed down the motion a bit there. We're going to keep an eye on that. Remember, we noted last year a little bit, and so far this year, he throws that get me over curveball. He's got to snap it and throw it hard. When he kind of takes a little off, he also slows his arm speed down.
And he fires the fastball in for a strike, and he gets ahead of Stubbs 1-2.
He can paint the inside corner. I like the way he likes to use his fastball inside. He's very aggressive with his fastball.
Watch out with Stubbs. He's got power. His problem is consistent contact. He's struck out as many as 205 times in a season. Shoots that foul, but he hit 22 home runs with the Reds back in 10. He had 40 stolen bases the next year. Power and speed, but just that other piece of the game has always been missing.
That was a changeup right there, Garrett, and right down the middle and up. And he's just lucky at 220 hitters up there. You got runners on second and third. Go with your best pitches. That's your third pitch.
1-2 from Matz, and Stubbs shoots another one foul.
Boy, a little tardy. That train left the station. He's barely got the bat on that one.
This is Steven Matz's 9th start in the major leagues in the regular season. He's won 5 of his first 8, the only Met pitcher ever to start his career with 5 wins in his first 8 pitching appearances. 1-2. Got the inside corner, strike 3 call. Matz painting against Stubbs, his 4th strikeout, and he strands a pair in scoring position. Terry let him go after the number 8 hitter, and Matz did the job. Still 2-0 New York. Striking out Drew Stubbs. Watch his back foot.
Watch him drag it. And that's why they invented the pitcher's toe plate, which used to be in the old days just a metal shield, like would fit around the front of the shoe where the toes are with leather, and you would attach it to your laces. Now it's much more sophisticated.
Conforto grounds one off the glove of Freeman and into right field. So the second one Freeman's not been able to handle tonight. This was a much tougher chance, and Conforto will get credit for a base hit.
Conforto swinging a hot bat. Hit the ball hard 4 times last night. Only 1 hit to show for it. And he's hit 2 balls hard tonight, and he's got 2 in the kip already.
The kip?
Yeah, why not? It's a kip.
What's a kip?
It's a till. It's 2 hits right in your back pocket.
Oh, it's like a bag.
Well, no, it could be anything. Whatever you want, Gare.
I've never had a kip. I've had a kipper, but never a kip. Who's Hot in Orange and Blue is brought to you by Geico. Lucas Duda homered in all 3 games in Philadelphia. Went 1 for 4 last night, so he's got a 5-game hitting streak going. And he drove in the first Met run today with a sacrifice fly, and very fortunate to get us off the subject of kips and kippers.
Remember John Kipper?
I do, the pitcher.
Yeah, for the Pirates, left-hander.
Remember Kip Wells?
Didn't face him.
Pitcher.
Here it is. Kip, a leather hide of a young or small animal.
What?
Yep. So
you're putting
a set of or bundle of hides
hits in your hide?
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's a lot of leather out there, Gary.
This is like from Frontier days that you're taking me. I mean, you know, you often take me back in time, but you're taking me a little further back.
Well, we got to have fun. Shoot, this is 16 games in. We got a long way to go.
It's 10% of your season. Duda goes after the curveball and misses. And he goes down on strikes. Second strikeout for Chacin. That's the first out of the inning.
Chased a bad breaking ball out of the strike zone.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Neil Walker, who drew his first walk of the season. His first time up. That's got 2 runs in the first inning, couple of hits, a sacrifice fly, a stolen base, and then an error by Freddie Freeman that brought in the second run. And Walker looking to bunt for a hit with the left side of the infield wide open. Couldn't get it away from the plate.
Not a bad idea right here. That's the danger of those extreme shifts.
Well, they always say with the big sluggers, you know, the Duda types, well, he shouldn't bunt because he's going to hit 30 home runs a year. But with a guy like Walker, who's, more of a 15, 20 home run guy at best, probably makes more sense to take those base hits that they give him to.
I remember Dave Kingman once. We played way deep with the Cardinal days, and he put down a bunt, and I was kind of thankful he put down the bunt. He was red hot hitting home runs. One of his hot streaks.
Walker lifts one out to center field. Stubbs has plenty of room.
Just missed that one.
2 out.
And you can tell by his reaction that, I would love to have that one back again. Tried to pull it. It's easy up here to take a look. That ball could have been driven into left center field.
So 2 out. Conforto still at first, and there's Cabrera, who hit the ground ball that got by Freeman to bring in a run in the first.
Chacin's got that natural tail to his fastball that's going to sink away from a left-hand hitter. You want to think up the middle with a pitcher like this. And they got a shift on Cabrera here. They've moved the shortstop Ibar on the other side of second base, the pull side, but straight up in the outfield.
Interesting to see Chacin throw to first. Conforto snuck his first big league stolen base in the first inning, and all of a sudden you're a little more concerned about him. And that's grounded right to Ibar, had him positioned perfectly, and he throws out Cabrera to end the inning. Middle of the third, still 2-0 New York. Mets leading 2-0 in the third. Let's check in with the wide awake Steve Gelb. Steve.
How long are we going to keep that going, guys? With Steven Matz, you guys have mentioned it. It was like night and day between his first 2 starts of the season. And Terry Collins, after his start in Cleveland, spoke about the difference being he just pitched against Cleveland, used his off-speed stuff instead of becoming too fastball happy. And that was really accentuated when you look at what Matz did when he got into trouble. Against Miami, 2nd inning, bases loaded, nobody out. Next 3 batters saw 11 fastballs, just 1 off-speed pitch. 3 runs after those 3 guys and the route was on. In Cleveland, gave up a leadoff double in the 4th inning, 14 pitches to the next 3 batters, 7 fastballs, 7 off speed, and he got out of the inning unscathed. So that's something to watch here. You would think that's enough positive reinforcement, and he did just do that in the bottom of the 2nd inning when he got into a little bit of trouble, sprinkled in those off speed pitches against the final 2 batters.
I kind of agree with you there, Steve, but he is a power pitcher. This young man right here, and it strikes out Chacin. I don't want to see at this stage of his career where he's developing his changeup. His changeup is a work in progress. It's his 3rd pitch. He has a tendency to slow his motion down and give it up, so it still needs perfection. But he's primarily a fastball pitcher. His strikeouts tonight have been fastballs into the right-hand hitters, which I love to see. And his big pitch, he's got a great curveball.
He certainly made that work for him in the last start in Cleveland. Here he has struck out 5 first time through the batting order. Nick Markakis gets a first pitch curveball and fouls it off. By the way, Steve, the answer to that question is a long time.
Oh, yeah.
A really long time.
They got cots back there under the stands. You can go back. Greg will wake you up in the 5th inning for another.
Steve is in a little bit of mourning right now.
Oh, I know.
Oh, and Markakis gets drilled. Not sure whether it got him on the hand or the wrist, but Matz's pitch just kept following him up and in. So rotating that wrist.
A hit in the hand.
Very much like the area where Travis d'Arnaud got hit last year that knocked him onto the disabled list.
Yep, he got hit on the hand. Didn't he have a hamate injury?
A couple of years ago with the Orioles, yeah.
So you know what I say to this is that it lets it kind of graze the top. Oh, probably got his knuckles. It just lets the hitter know that, you know, this guy's not a painter. He throws predominantly strikes, but one might get away from him once in a while, and a hitter might be less inclined to hang in there. There's nothing wrong with this.
And Markakis is going to stay in, still flexing that hand and making sure that everything's intact. First batter Matz has hit this year, hit just 1 last year in his first big league experience. So 1 out and 1 on. Now Daniel Castro struck out his first time up. First pitch curveball outside.
That hurts. There's no question.
Stroke toward the hole and a base hit for Castro. Markakis pulls in at second. So due to holding the runner, Castro able to shoot it by him, and that's the 3rd Atlanta hit.
Well, just nice hitting right there, and fully intent on going to right field, looking away, and that is the 2nd base hit to right field off of Matz.
So a chance for Freddie Freeman with a couple of men on. Freddie was called out on strikes his first time up. 9 for 55 to start the season. Just not what you expect to see from Freddie Freeman. Markakis at second, Castro at first, and 1 out. There was a time when Freddie Freeman was almost as good against lefties as he was against righties, but you see his numbers have declined the last couple of years, and he's now hitting under 200 this year against lefties. Of course, he's hitting under 200 against righties too.
Two fastballs away. I've said it before, when the lefty's in trouble against a lefty, they like to get ahead of you with that fastball away. They're comfortable in that outside corner.
Matz ahead 0-2. That's drilled down the right field line, and that'll go into the corner. An extra base hit for Freeman. Markakis is in. Castro will be held at third. It's an RBI double for Freddie Freeman to cut the Mets lead to 2-1.
Well, an 0-2 pitch, one to waste. And good hitting by Freeman. Wanted it away, and look at it, right down the middle and down. Might have been a changeup, but that goes out in front. I never like a changeup with 2 strikes. A hitter in trouble.
So a run is in. 2 in scoring position. And now Adonis Garcia, who had a base hit to right field his first time up. Mets will play the infield back. They'll concede the tying run on a ground ball. And Garcia fouls off the curveball, 0-1.
Well, 89 miles an hour on the radar gun here, and Freddie's out in front.
Probably a slider. And one of the first he's thrown tonight.
Had him out in front.
And if it was a slide, it's a case of going with his 4th pitch.
I think it's his 3rd. I think it's changeup's his 4th pitch. Hey, you got to tip your hat to the hitter too. They make a living out there also.
Big batter here for Matz. Garcia fouls back the changeup, and it's 1-2. Matz had a couple of runners in scoring position against him in the second inning. Was able to strike out Stubbs to get through the inning. Here facing Garcia, who's been swinging the bat very well. 4 for 6 in this series. Castro at third, Freeman at second, and 1 out. 1-2. And he shoots that fastball foul.
Boy, Garcia's tardy on everything.
First inning was easy for Matz tonight. The last 2 innings less so. This one began when Markakis was hit by a pitch. Now 2 straight hits. 1-2. Missed inside. 2-2 to Garcia with Tyler Flowers, the number 5 hitter, on deck.
Good try right there.
Matz has already struck out 5. And Garcia just got a piece of the curveball and banked it off his foot. And Garcia taking some time.
That ball's up. It was a curveball. Had Garcia out in front.
This will be the 7th pitch of the at bat from Matz to Garcia. And it's hit to the second baseman. Walker plucks it for the second out, and the runners get back. So 2 away. So Matz with a chance to minimize the damage if he can get through Tyler Flowers, whom he struck out on 3 pitches his first time up. Garcia or Castro at third, Freeman at second with 2 out. Ball 1 to Flowers.
Nice if he can get out of this with 1 run.
Hit to center field. And right there, Lagares. That retires the side. So Matz able to minimize the damage. Freeman with an RBI double, but nothing more. 2-1 New York after 3. Matz gave up the hit.
You were right, Gary. That was a slider, 89-mile-an-hour slider.
And after the inning was over, Travis d'Arnaud immediately going over to Matz to talk about that inning. And then Worthen chipping in.
Just got to be careful with that slowing down of that arm speed with his curveball.
Well, we saw that on that last pitch that he.
We saw it with frequency
threw to Flowers
when he had second and third. Got to be careful with that.
d'Arnaud grounded out his first time up. Travis's older brother Chase is in the Atlanta farm system now, playing the outfield in AAA. He was with the Phillies last year. So there's a good chance the brothers might get to face each other before the season is over, with all the changes that the Braves are likely to make this year.
As did in Philadelphia with the Goodell brothers.
Right, if Eric
was
gets
here,
back.
right?
That's it up the middle, a base hit for d'Arnaud to get the Mets started in the 4th. That's 4 innings, 4 leadoff hits for the Mets tonight. They were able to cash the first inning leadoff hit, not the others since.
Sinker, nice hitting. Keep doing it like that.
Five hits now against Chacin, and now Juan Lagares, who had the leadoff hit in the 2nd inning, will step in. The numbers have been good for Juan so far this year. They were good in spring training before, and if you go back really to the point last year where he became a part-time player when the Mets got Cespedes, his numbers were great the last 2 months last year and in the postseason. So he's really been a transformed player since he's been playing less. Hit to the right side. Freeman will turn down the play at second and settle for the out at first. d'Arnaud advances, 1 out. Today's high-speed pitch comes from ChevyOffers.com. Steven Matz is topped out at 96 miles an hour. Jhoulys Chacín at 91. So now Steven Matz will get to swing the bat for the first time this year. Successfully sacrificed in the second inning. For his debut against the Reds last year, became the first pitcher ever to drive in 4 runs in his major league debut. Went 3 for 3 that day at Citi Field. It was certainly a day to remember on every front for Steven and his family. Chacín gets the curveball in for a strike. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Modell's. Shop Modell's Sporting Goods, your fan gear headquarters. Come on, Mets fans, you got to go to Moe's. Steven was 4 for 14 last year. Socks that one foul, 0-2.
Got a nice crowd here tonight, Saturday night, bobblehead night.
Yeah, they gave out the Skip and Pete bobbleheads tonight in honor of the late broadcasters Skip Carey and Pete Van Wieren, who were beloved here in Atlanta. There's the iconic Coke bottle,
which we can show this year.
Nice, isn't it?
Yes.
Matt strikes out on a pitch in the dirt. Flowers checks the runner and makes the toss for the put out. Third strikeout for Chacín. 2 out in the inning.
Welcome Coca-Cola as one of our Mets new sponsors. Of course, the Coca-Cola is headquartered here in Atlanta.
Here's Granderson, who's 1 for 2, had a base hit back in the first and scored a run. Darno at second and 2 out, and Granderson takes the curveball down for ball 1.
I always like that Met logo on the shoulder there, the left shoulder of Granderson.
These are the classic Met road uniforms.
I missed them. I would have loved to have played in these roadies.
Well, you had your script. And of course, your classic home uniforms from '86 are being displayed now every Sunday at Citi Field.
And all their piping.
They're very loud. Oof. Very 80s.
Had 108 wins in them.
Very of their time. Yes, they did. Curveball misses and it's 3-1 to Granderson. 108 in the regular season.
116 total.
That's exactly right.
It's a lot of fun.
3-1 from Chacín, and he misses ball 4. Looked like he wanted very little part of Granderson. Second walk given up by Chacín, and he'll face David Wright instead with 2 men on.
Well, we'll see how he attacks David. And you're right, Gary. He did not want anything to do with Curtis. And David, who he has handled the first 2 at bats, is going to try his luck with Dave.
Wright has struck out looking and flying to right, 0 for 2. Just 1 hit in his last 16 at bats with 9 strikeouts in that span for Wright. So he's trying to fight through it right now. Darno at second with 2 down. Now he unveiled the David Wright baseball card. He was the compensation pick in 2001 when the Mets lost Mike Hampton as a free agent. That worked out well.
Worked out real well.
Shoots one down the right field line. Fair ball going into the corner. That'll get Darno home. Granderson being waved around. He'll score. It's a 2-run double for David Wright. And the Mets now have a 4-1 lead. So Chacín pitched carefully to Granderson to go after Wright, and David made him pay.
Pitch up and out over the plate. Oh, it came back over the middle. David was set up away. Nice to see David come through. Third and fourth RBIs of the season. Granderson can fly. This ball's down the corner. You would expect him to score standing. And he does.
Oh, the Mets, after wasting leadoff hits in the second and third, able to cash it in here in the fourth. Now a 3-run lead. Here's Conforto, who's already 2 for 2. And he takes up and away for ball 1. Well, if you're Jhoulys Chacín and pitching for the Braves right now, that's an out you had to get. And it's a huge hit for David Wright to expand the Mets lead.
It's also a big hit for the club.
To Conforto with Judah on deck. David's only 2 RBIs this season had come on those 2 home runs he hit in one game in Philadelphia. He had been 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position until that 2-run double. And a 2-0 curveball in for a strike to Conforto.
Well, that's the patience of Conforto at such a young age. A backdoor curveball 2-0, not a pitch to hit. Just spit on it. You're 2-1. Okay, let's go to hitting. Good selection.
Left side of the infield open for Michael. Yanks one foul. 2-2. Well, Conforto was installed as the number 3 hitter when this road trip began, and it has certainly looked like the perfect move by Terry Collins. Conforto's hitting .300 for the year. The team is hitting all around him. The Mets are 5-2 on this trip. Two coming, and the curveball down, full count. And as has been the case frequently on this trip, the Mets are driving up the pitch count of the opposing starter early in the game. Bud Norris wound up throwing 88 pitches in 4 innings last night and then exiting. Chacín now at 70 in the 4th inning tonight. Three-two coming. Golfed in the air to right field. Markakis has it measured. And that retires the side, but not before David Wright's 2-run double expands the Mets lead. Tonight they honor Skip Carey and Pete Van Wieren here in Atlanta. Mets have a 4-1 lead in the 4th.
Yeah, still a work in progress. I think, parts of the game obviously felt better and felt like I was releasing the ball the way I should be, and other times it was not that way. So, still working, and there's more positives than negatives out of this game. So, like I said last time, it's kind of flush this one, start from tomorrow, and
That's Matt Harvey after his start last night, which was certainly an up and down performance.
Well, again, I agree with him that there was some positive to take out of the start last night, because his first 3 starts was really not good. And this one, at least, he had moments, but he was very inconsistent again. That's been his issue. And he was up a lot yesterday, than what I saw. But he got his first win, and it's something to build on, hopefully.
Well, he got big time help from NYN Cespedes, because if Cespedes doesn't throw out Marquez at the plate to end the 5th inning, then Harvey's night looks extremely different.
It looks different. He may have been lifted and not finished the 5th inning, and not have been the pitcher of record. So the throw did bail him out, and that's all. It just, his pitches were up predominantly. That's what worries me.
Frank Core hits a 2-hopper to Cabrera, and that's the first out in the home 4th. But by the way, Cespedes out of the lineup today, but that was a spectacular throw he made last night to throw out Marquez, and it wasn't even close to being the best throw by a Cuban outfielder last night.
That was Puig out from Los Angeles down the right field line, making Colorado. I'm sorry, threw it all the way on a fly to third base.
I mean, they put up a new fence in Colorado a little bit higher to try and prevent some of the cheap home runs. And Trevor Story hit it off that new fence. It just went over Puig's glove, and then he retrieves it on the warning track in right field and throws it on the fly to third base.
On the fly.
That's like a Roberto Clemente, Dave Parker kind of a throw. Push bunt by Ibar. He runs into it in fair territory, and he's out.
Yes, sir.
Ibar got the bunt down, and once it contacted him in fair territory, he was retired, and he knew it.
The correct call by home plate umpire John Tumpane. Here it is right here. He is coming out of the box, and he's hit in front of home plate.
There's no question there that it was the correct call.
No question at all. Absolutely.
So credit a put out to the catcher. 2 unassisted, 2 out and nobody on. And Drew Stubbs takes a strike. So Matz has had a couple of difficult innings to work with. Was able to limit the damage to just 1 run on 4 hits over the 2nd and 3rd innings. There's a chance for a quick one here. Stubbs had a key at bat in the 2nd inning, 2nd and 3rd and 2 out, and Matz got him looking at a fastball. Another chance for Cabrera. And a wide throw, and Duda this time stays on the bag. Side retired. Cabrera made a similar throw last night that pulled Duda off the bag. This time Duda is able to stay on the cushion. That toe stays right there on the sack. 1-2-3 inning for Matz.
Wasn't pretty.
4-1 lead. It's not that warm. Well, we mentioned it in Colorado last night. Here it is, the Yasiel Puig throw.
Recovers from the attempt to make the catch. 310 yards is how far he threw it. 8 yards, excuse me, to be exact, and right on a dime.
Feet,
yes.
yards,
So,
that would have been.
yeah, so it's 100 yards, a little over 100 yards, the length of a football field. How about that?
It's like Sonny Six Killer.
Yes. Sonny Jurgensen.
Yeah, him too. All the Sonnys. Sonny Corleone. Lucas Duda leading off in the 5th inning. And he hits one well out to left field, chasing Frank Korbach, and Frenchie's got it one away.
Since we showed that throw again, from the throw from Puig, I think it's an interesting note that Cespedes, since 2012, has 50 outfield assists. That's incredible. An incredible number.
You know, usually when you're a guy with a great arm, you'll roll up a bunch of assists for a couple of years, and then they stop running on you.
Right.
And then the assists dry up. Remember, Lagares had, what, 15 outfield assists 2 years ago when he won the Gold Glove? And then nobody ran on him. Neil Walker takes a strike, then his arm started hurting, and
he started
running on him again.
Yep.
But his arm, from what we've seen early in the season, and he hasn't had too many chances, looks like it's back. Walker pops one up. Garcia coming into foul ground, should have plenty of room. 2 out. Chacin gets a couple of quick outs in the 5th. And now it's Drupal Cabrera.
I've been noticing Walker a little bit hitting a little too many balls in the air. He's hit some home runs. He's got 6. He's hit quite a few on this road trip. I think he needs to start refocusing on hitting line drives. I mean, he's not a 30 home run guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's hit the most in his career, what, 23?
23.
And basically 15, 18. Stay with your strengths. Hit line drives.
We had the last game in Philly when he got 4 singles, so it's been an interesting start for Walker in his first year with a new club. You know, there's so much going on, right? That first year with a new team, but and he's sort of in the situation you were when you came to the Mets, in that he can leave after this year. He's going to be a free agent, so he's got his new team to impress, and then, you know, numbers to put up as well to try and get himself a contract.
Well, he's got a veteran club here, and this group here of Mets, they are a good group. They pull together, they hustle, they want to play. So he's melded nicely and quickly with this ball club.
As has this guy at the plate, Cabrera. Has been a visible presence on this team.
Well, the answer to the shortstop issue, that's for sure. He's played a wonderful shortstop so far.
In fact, when he made a throwing error last night, it was the first error for the Mets middle infield this year. Freeman plucks the backhand and flips to Chacin, who has his first 1-2-3 inning of the night. Halfway through in Atlanta, 4-1 New York. Turner Field. The last year the Braves will be playing at this 20-year-old ballpark. They'll be moving out to the suburbs next year to SunTrust Park up in Cobb County. And here are some of the latest pictures of the construction there. It's Freddie Gonzalez and his group out looking at the bare bones of what will eventually be SunTrust Park, which is part of an entire complex up there in Cobb County. They're going to have shops and hotels and restaurants and make it a real destination kind of a place. Just 72 more home games in this building for the Braves. Jhoulys Chacín leading off the home fifth. The ball and a strike. Matz struck him out his first time up. One of 5 strikeouts for Steven tonight. And Chacín pops one up. Duda has a play. 1 out.
Well,
here's some of the off the field looks at what it's going to be like. Some of the ancillary businesses, shops, restaurants, hotels. A little different for Braves fans. Remember when Citi Field was going up in 2007, 2008, Met fans could watch the progress from inside Shea Stadium. Here, the ballpark is what, 20 miles away, so not quite the same experience of watching your new ballpark rise. Markakis pokes one foul.
Well, their first stadium was Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, which I played in from 1966 to 1996. Then Turner Field in 97 to present.
That's ahead 0-2 on Markakis. And he misses just outside. 1-2. Matz has retired 6 in a row since Freddie Freeman's double in the third. And Markakis takes just off the plate. 2-2. Daniel Castro on deck. Matz starting his third time around the batting order. Struck out 5 the first time through the order, none the second time through. And he gets Markakis looking to start his third pass through the batting order. Number 6 for Matz, 2 out.
Markakis thought that ball was outside. Awfully close. He's got a gripe, but too close to take. Very interesting, Gary. First batter, the first game in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was the Pirates. Matty Alou led up, was the first batter. When Fulton County shut down, the last batter to hit in Fulton County was Moises Alou, nephew of Matty.
That's terrific. I didn't know that. 1-1 to Castro.
Very interesting, I guess.
Unfortunately, I know the last man to bat at Shea Stadium. I wish it had been an opposition player, but it wasn't. It was Ryan Church. 1-2 to Castro. But do you know who threw the last pitch for the Mets at Shea Stadium?
No.
Bobby Parnell.
Really?
Yep. And I only know that because I just read Greg Prince's new book about the 2015 season, and that's one of the pieces of trivia that he put in there. It's a great read if you're a Mets fan. It's called Amazing Again. Greg is one of the guys who does the blog Faith and Fear in Flushing, and one of the, well, if you have a literary sense and you're a Mets fan, there's no better blog to read. And the book is terrific. Toward the middle of the diamond, and that sneaks through for a base hit. So Castro has his second hit of the night. After Matz had retired 7 in a row, a 2-out single, and that'll get Freeman to the plate.
Oh, nice at bat Ball up. Matz always just reacts like he's hard on himself out on the mound, and he'll get better with that as he gets more experienced.
So here's Freeman, who got an 0-2 slider and drilled it into the right field corner for a double to drive in a run. And he gets the curveball and fouls it off, 0-1. So Matz gritting his teeth after giving up that 2-out hit to Castro. Trying to get through this 5th inning with a 4-1 lead. And Freeman shoots that one down the left field line. That'll go foul.
Steven is getting a little bit up with his pitches, and he's got to get that fastball down. Now Freeman is a low ball hitter. Been a little up with his pitches in the middle innings here.
Well, he was ahead on Freeman 0-2 the last time. Let's see what he does here. Attacks him with a fastball, and Freddie fouls it off.
And those are pitches that Freeman used to just toast. He's just been missing. He's off to that bad start. Unable to get untracked, even though he's got an RBI double tonight.
He punches one into shallow left, and that'll fall for a base hit. So Freeman picks up his 2nd hit of the night, again on an 0-2 pitch. And the Braves have 2 men on.
Hanging curveball here. Too much plate right down the middle.
So Freeman is 2 for 3. Braves are going to get the tying run to the plate, and Dan Warthen will come out to talk to Matz before he deals to Adonis Garcia. Matz had himself a clean 4th inning, but this is the 3rd inning in the last 4 where he's had multiple runners on base. Get to Citi Field for Family Sunday, May 1st. To watch the Mets take on the Giants at 1:10. The first 15,000 fans in attendance will receive a pair of Curtis Granderson baseball socks, courtesy of East Coast Power and Gas. Plus, all kids can run the bases after the game in the Mr. Met Dash presented by Northwell Health. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Family Sundays. Big batter for Steven Matz. Tying run at the plate, Adonis Garcia, who's 1 for 2 tonight and 4 for 7 in this series. And Garcia late on the fastball, 0-1.
This is the time when you need to rear back and get a little something extra to get out of a jam here. Nursing a 3-run lead. You want to just put the fire out right here.
The Braves came in as the top team in the majors with runners in scoring position, hitting .320 as a team in RBI situations, but just 1 for 5 tonight.
And also 14th in the league in runs scored, which is kind of
doesn't really compute.
Doesn't compute.
Well, they just haven't had the long ball going. 0-2 coming, and he gets Garcia on 3 fastballs to end the inning. So Matz got serious and made quick work of Adonis Garcia. 7 strikeouts for Matz as he strands 2 more Braves. 4-1 New York. The early lead, as they have had a habit of doing on this road trip, and they lead 4-1 as we go to the 6th. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by your Tri-State Ford dealers, who invite you to test drive a new Ford. You'll discover why Ford is the total package. 6th inning, Travis d'Arnaud leads off against Jhoulys Chacín and takes a curveball for a strike. Travis had a base hit up the middle to lead off the 4th and came around to score on David Wright's 2-out 2-run double that stretched the Met lead to 4-1. Lagares on deck, Matz behind him, and d'Arnaud pokes one foul, and it's 0-2. Matt Marksberry, who was just called up today by the Braves, is up in the bullpen. Last night the Braves had Casey Kelly make his Atlanta debut, went 3 innings in relief, pitched great, and for his trouble he got sent back to the minor leagues.
It's a cruel game.
Thanks, kid. Nice to see you.
It's not for the lighthearted, Gare.
Well, the theory is that since Kelly pitched 3 innings last night, he would be of no use to them the next couple of days. They needed arms, so they made the switch. And d'Arnaud takes strike 3 call. Didn't think so. And grumbles at John Tumpane for a moment.
That's a strike. Had the needs inside corner. Not much of a sign of confidence to your starting pitching staff. Like old borderline knees. I can see Travis getting a little bit peeved at that call.
Catchers can't get too peeved.
Well, hey.
Got to get those calls on the other side. 4th strikeout for Chacín. Now Lagares is 1 for 2 and takes inside ball 1. Steven Matz, 81 pitches through 5 innings, is going to continue on. He's on deck.
Well, the Mets are going to try to keep pace with the red hot Nationals. They won today 2-0. What a performance by Roark.
Tanner Roark, 7 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 15 strikeouts against Minnesota. In fact, the Nats combined to strike out 18 today, which tied the franchise record that was set back in the Montreal days. But the Nats are now 13-4 with that win. Mets started the day 3.5 behind. Not that, you know, standings matter that much in April, but you do notice when the team you're expecting to battle with all year gets off to a phenomenal start, which the Nats have.
And you don't want to fall back too far.
1-2 to Lagares, and Juan strikes out on the slider. Back-to-back strikeouts for Chacín to start the 6th. And that takes us to our Lexus drive around the majors. Troy Tulowitzki hit a pair of home runs for the Blue Jays today. Jay Happ goes to 3-0 as they beat red-hot Oakland. Corey Kluber pitched his best game of the year so far as the Indians dominated Detroit 10-1. Steven Matz takes a strike. Also today, Brett Gardner hit a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th for the Yankees as they beat Tampa Bay 3-2 in an afternoon game at Yankee Stadium.
The Yankees play Sunday afternoon games. Why don't the Mets play? They always play night games on Saturday. Why don't they play some day games? Be nice.
Matz shoots one through the hole. He's got himself a base hit. So Steven Matz with his first hit of the season.
Well, this Met pitching staff starting rotation can not only pitch, but they know how to handle the bat.
So Matz with a 2-out single. Freddie Gonzalez out to the mound. He's going to make a pitching change with Granderson coming up. He wants the lefty in the game. So Chacín is done after 91 pitches and 5 2/3 innings. He'll take his exit. And Matt Marksberry will make his season debut for Atlanta. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Mets up 4-1 in the 6th. We'll be right back to Turner Field. See Terry Collins sporting a Band-Aid on his left temple, the residue of a minor cab accident that he went through on Thursday. You would think at this point in Mets history, all Mets personnel would know to keep your seatbelt fastened in the back seat of a cab after what Tom Glavine and Duaner Sanchez went through.
That's true, and I'm guilty of that too at times.
Granderson facing Marksberry, who was just called up today, was in 31 games for the Braves last year, and the Mets saw him on several occasions. Granderson 1 for 2 and a walk today, and he scored 2 runs. Matz at first, not being held on, and Granderson grounds one foul. Steven can run. I wonder whether he'd be inclined to try and steal a base.
I think that pitchers should just just chill. Don't overexert. They're the ones that are expending the most energy out there of anybody. If they go 9, even 7.
Granderson hits one down the left field line. Over toward the corner goes Frank Core to get it, and that retires the side. So Marksberry gets his mark, and we go to the bottom of the 6th, and Matz will go back to the mound. Do what he does best. Mets up 4-1. Jeff Francoeur making friends wherever he goes. The man has had a smile on his face his entire career, and so is Curtis Granderson. They're really like 2 peas in a pod.
Now Curtis is saying, hey, I'm a dead pull hitter. I hit one down the left field line, and you're playing me over there? What's going on?
It was in the charts. Tyler Flowers will lead off in the home 6th against Steven Matz, who's given up 1 run and 6 hits over the first 5 innings, struck out 7 and walked none. Struck out Flowers back in the 2nd inning, got him to fly out with 2 in scoring position to end the 3rd. And a backdoor curveball to start him off this time, 0-1. Flowers, as we mentioned earlier, was originally drafted by the Braves, 33rd round pick back in 05 out of junior college. It's hit off the end of the bat to center, and Lagares is right there for the first out. But the Braves sent Flowers to the White Sox in the deal, if you remember this, that brought Atlanta Javier Vasquez, who pitched very effectively for the Braves for a couple of years. There's your Land Rover box score brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. Braves have 6 hits against Matz, 2 apiece for Castro and Freeman. Freeman has the only RBI. Here's Francoeur lining one into center field for a base hit.
First ball, fastball hitting.
Why would anybody throw him a pitch in the strike zone on the first pitch? He's been doing that for his entire career. Second hit of the night for Francoeur, and the 7th hit against Steven Matz. Now it's Eric Ibar, who tried to bunt his way on last time up, but ran into the baseball in fair territory and was called out. Ibar really struggling against lefties. 1 for 21 as a right-hand batter, and he hits a double play ball to third. Right to Walker and on to first for the 5-4-3 double play. Side retired, and it's a 4-pitch inning for Steven Matz. Helped out by the double play. It's 4-1 Mets after 6. He's given up just the 1 run. 85 pitches through 6 innings. Here's your Mets box score, brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. David Wright, a big 2-run double to stretch the Mets lead in the 4th after the Mets scored twice in the 1st. Michael Conforto a pair of hits tonight. Wright will lead off in the 7th. David hit a 2-out 2-run double into the right field corner to make it a 4-1 game in the 4th. Will face the lefty Matt Marksberry, who came on to get the final out in the 6th, and he'll stay on because behind Wright you got the 2 lefty swingers, Conforto and Duda. And that's drilled down the left field line, and Wright's got himself another extra base hit. So David, who has feasted on lefties his entire career, sees the first pitch from Marksberry and drills a leadoff double.
Fastball, first pitch. Good to see David get the barrel out.
So Freddie Gonzalez rolled the dice, leaving the lefty in to face Wright so that he could leave him in for the next 2 hitters. But David makes him pay, and now Conforto and Duda will try and get him around.
No, this is a big inning right here now brewing for the Mets. Big run out there. Chance to blow this game open.
By the way, with Marksberry in that Atlanta pen, they're now carrying 3 lefties in the Braves bullpen. Conforto takes a strike. Michael's 2 for 3 tonight. They've got the former Dodger Chris Withrow up in the bullpen now. Braves are carrying a 9-man bullpen right now. It'll go to 8 tomorrow because they have to bring up a starting pitcher to start the final game of the series tomorrow. Probably Aaron Blair for his major league debut, but they haven't announced that yet. It's a good fastball by Marksberry, 0-2.
Well, as I said, look at David on contact. He'll barrel the bat out in front of the body. It's good to see that.
Flowers able to keep it close enough so Wright couldn't make a move. 1-2 to Conforto.
Nice. Nice. That's how it's done. Runner on second. Well done.
And Conforto gets hit by the curveball, and he'll go to first base. Curveball that never broke for Marksberry. So the Mets have the first two men on in the seventh, with Duda coming up.
It's a curveball that didn't break.
So each team has now had a batter hit. Markakis got hit on the hand by Matz earlier. And now Duda with a chance. First and second, nobody out. Lucas drove in the first Met run with a sac fly in the first. Since then, he struck out and flied out. And he takes the first pitch curveball off the plate. The starter, Jhoulys Chacín, went 5 2/3, allowed 4 runs, 3 earned on 7 hits, walked 2, struck out 5. Marksberry's now faced 3 batters, and 2 of the 3 have reached. You got the switch hitter Walker on deck, who's been tearing it up as a right-hand batter. I wonder how big a sample size opposing managers will need. Because normally when Walker comes up, if you're the opposing manager, you want the lefty in the game to face him.
Right.
But in a very small sample size, he's had incredible success batting right-handed early this season.
The long-term track record is the rule. You're going to play your percentages. He's a better left-hand hitter than a right-hand hitter. I don't care what kind of hot start he's off, and he's tremendous right now.
So if he did it for a month, 2 months, how long would it take for the opposing managers to adjust their perceptions?
I think with all statistics today, and they have everything, if he's slumping from the left side and hitting from the right side, that would be the only time you would maybe roll the dice.
Stopped by Flowers, 2-2. It's interesting, right? Because he's made an adjustment, and whether that has a long-term effect or only a short-term effect, sometimes scouting reports change.
And pitchers are making adjustments too, so they'll make adjustments to his adjustments. It's a constant cycle.
Duda chases the curveball, and Marksberry has the first out of the inning. Second time Duda's been struck out tonight. And Freddie Gonzalez is on his way to the mound, and well, the scouting report may have flipped already. It looks like Freddie's going to bring in a right-hander to face Neil Walker.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? So the 7 for 11 with 3 home runs as a right-hand batter has gotten Freddie's attention, and he'll turn Walker around and make him a left-hand batter. That's up 4-1 in the 7th. We'll be right back. By the new Jet Blue card. One more game on this road trip tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 here on Pix 11. And then the Mets are home to start a 9-game homestand on Monday night against the Reds, with Noah Syndergaard to open the homestand. Chris Withrow, the former Dodger, is in to pitch. Withrow missed all of last year following Tommy John surgery and back surgery. Has gotten off to a good start for Atlanta. And Neil Walker takes high ball 1. But Withrow, who was throwing 96 back in his Dodger days before he got hurt, has been throwing 92 this year.
He had 2 nice seasons, those short seasons with the Dodgers.
They traded him while he was out last year.
Elbow surgery and back surgery.
It's a tough combination. There's the fastball by Walker, 1-1.
Every time I hear back, I can relate. And I always think of how Don Mattingly's career was shortened because of back issues.
That's what the Mets constantly think about with David Wright, who has doubled twice tonight. He's at second. Conforto at first with 1 out. And the curveball misses. 2-1 to Walker with Cabrera on deck. I wonder if Neil was stunned when they brought the right-hander in to face him, because the last few years it's been almost mandatory for teams to bring in lefties to face Neil to make him a right-hand batter.
You know, Whitey Herzog, when I played with the Mets, would always bring in either Ricky Horton or Ken Daly, the left-handers, to face me late in the ball game. And one time we were in St. Louis, I went to get up on the on-deck circle, and I stopped and looked at him, and he said, "Go ahead." He kept the right-hander in. It surprised me. 4-3 on your scorecard.
And Withrow comes in and fans Walker for the second out. So that worked for Freddie Gonzalez.
One more lefty to get out. This is everything up above the waist here. And Walker kind of drops the back shoulder under the ball. The bat is always in the same angle as the shoulders.
So now it says dribble Cabrera. Mets are the first 2 men on here in the 7th, but Marksbury struck out Duda. Withrow struck out Walker. And now Cabrera will try and salvage the inning. Mets have had the leadoff man on in 5 of the 7 innings. Only twice have they been able to cash in. And Cabrera goes after the curveball, 0-1. Well, there's a reason Chris Withrow was a first-round draft pick by the Dodgers. It was the 20th overall pick in the '07 draft, coming out of high school in Austin, Texas.
A lot of Texans in the major leagues. They love their baseball down there.
Cabrera fouls off the slider, and it's 0-2. Mets are just 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position tonight. They've had plenty of chances to add to this lead.
Well, it's been the home run that has been carrying this ball club. 21 home runs on this road trip. That's astounding.
None tonight. 0-2 to Cabrera. And Flowers able to knock that ball down, and Wright stays put.
Flowers is a nice little backstop back there. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, and he moves well. Very well done.
Well, even when he's down on his knees, he provides a big target. Try and smother those balls in the dirt, but he moves well. One-two coming from Withrow, and it's punched the other way. A base hit for Cabrera. Right around third. He'll come in to score. Conforto stopping at second. The throw behind him. He gets back safely. As dribble Cabrera with an RBI single, and the Mets now lead 5-1.
Just a little inside out there by Cabrera. Nice hitting with 2 strikes. Little inside out. That's the way to do it. Fought it off. That's a big run right there.
throwing behind Conforto, almost got him, and had he gotten him, the out might have been recorded before Wright crossed the plate. And that run might not have counted. Conforto fortunate to get back.
It's good to make the hard turn. He got back.
So another big 2-out hit. Wright had one in the 4th inning with a 2-run double, and now Cabrera with a run-scoring single with 2 out. And here's d'Arnaud. And Travis takes the breaking ball low. d'Arnaud 1 for 3 tonight, singled and scored back in the 4th. And that was a big hit for Asdrubal Cabrera on a night when the Mets have been mostly stymied after putting men on base. Now 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. And d'Arnaud takes a slider for a strike, 1-1. Conforto at second, Cabrera at first. d'Arnaud with just 1 run batted in through his first 41 at bats this season. So would David have scored if Conforto was out at second? You look.
I say no.
Yeah, he would not. So fortunate that Conforto got his hand back. In other ways, that run would have come off the board. Withrow ahead 1-2 on d'Arnaud. And Travis taps one at the plate, a foul ball. As was the case back in the 1st inning, the shortstop Ibar playing all the way over in the hole on d'Arnaud, and we referenced it at the time. In this ballpark, on several occasions over the last couple of years, d'Arnaud has been robbed of base hits by great plays in the hole by Andrelton Simmons. And then Ibar made a nice backhand play and threw him out in the 1st inning tonight.
I just don't like the defense the way it's set up. I really don't.
Just missed 2-2.
I mean, can we take a look at the left side of the infield? You mean to tell me the third baseman playing that far back can't cover 10 feet to his left, and you can't move the shortstop maybe 5 feet more towards center field? I'd say 10 feet. I don't get it. It's just smothering one area.
2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to d'Arnaud. And the breaking ball inside, the full count to Travis.
Remember, d'Arnaud's base hit in this ball game back in the 4th was a ball up the middle to the left of second base.
Yeah.
It's too much overthinking today.
Now the runners will be moving. Conforto and Cabrera will be on their way. 3-2 coming. And d'Arnaud takes strike 3 called. Slider on the outside corner, got him to end the inning. Couple of strikeouts for Withrow, but in between, Cabrera with an RBI hit. 5-1 New York at the stretch. Heating up 2 home runs yesterday, 3-run homer today. The Phillies lead the Brewers. 3-run homers by Eugenio Suarez and Adam Duvall in a 6-run 6th inning for the Reds. They lead the Cubs 8-3. Cubs are 13-4. And we saw the Dodgers with the lead. Kenta Maeda continues to forge a tremendous beginning to his big league career. And there you see the late games. Jose Fernandez going for the Marlins tonight in San Francisco. Drew Stubbs leading off the home 7th against Steven Matz, who had himself a really quick 6th, and that earned him the 7th. 87 pitches at the moment for Matz, who got through 7 in his last start and is trying to do that again. Chase Peterson on deck to pinch hit for the Braves. And Stubbs takes the slider low, 2-1. Stubbs has struck out and grounded out. 7 strikeouts for Matz tonight. He's given up 7 hits, but he's been able to make some big pitches when he's needed to. That's hit the other way, a base hit for Stubbs. And that is hit number 8 for Atlanta.
We'll take another look. We got the focus on the feet, and obviously there's the toe plate. There's your drag right there.
Now Jace Peterson will be the pinch hitter. If you're wondering why a left-handed pinch hitter, it's because it's all Freddie Gonzalez has. 4 left-handed bats on his bench. Peterson with a late swing foul, and it's 0-2.
Big hole in that mound on both sides. You can see where Matz, that's his hole. He's the only one working from the third base side of the rubber. Same thing on the other side. It's a very clay, kind of a hard surface. And there's the landing point.
We've seen a number of the pitchers in this series looking down at the mound as though they were having difficulty with the consistency. Strike 3 call. Peterson caught looking. Strikeout number 8 for Steven Matz, just 1 shy of this career high he set in his last start. So 1 out and 1 on in the home 7th, and now Nick Markakis. Markakis was hit on the hand by a pitch in the 3rd inning, and there was some concern about that, but he stayed in the game. Took a call 3rd strike his last time up in the 5th.
Getting his pitches up here. Don't think that they're not monitoring that in that Met dugout. I think Terry would love to see him finish the 7th inning and then go to the bullpen.
There goes the runner. The pitch a strike. The throw by d'Arnaud not in time. Drew Stubbs running with his team 4 runs down in the 7th.
Well, he stole on the pitcher there.
3rd stolen base of the year for Stubbs, who once stole 40 in the season.
I guarantee you, if Matz had thrown over, he was dead to rights. He just took a chance that he was going home, and no one could have thrown him out.
Well, how do you even take a chance of getting picked off when you're down by 4 runs?
I agree, Gare.
1-1 to Markakis. Markakis has been rather adept with runners in scoring position early this season. 8 for 15 in RBI situations. Hansel Robles, the right-hander. Jerry Blevins, the left-hander. Antonio Bastardo, who worked 2 innings last night, not available tonight. He has been a stalwart in that 7th and sometimes 8th inning, but not tonight. Off the corner, 2-2 to Markakis.
He's right there. Right into that hole. That's why you got it there. The pitcher's got to do a little gardening too.
Playing twister. Right foot yellow. Line the other way, a base hit for Markakis. Stubbs turns 3rd. He'll come in to score. So Markakis comes through with another RBI hit. And that cuts the Met lead to 5-2.
And I think that's going to get Terry's attention. He's coming for him. Not yet. He's going to stay with him.
Oh, here he comes. Yep, it's the right move. His pitches have been up of late, the last couple innings.
So Markakis picks up the Braves' 9th hit of the night, chasing home Stubbs, and that'll do it for Matz, who threw 98 pitches tonight. And Stephen will exit after 6 1/3, leaving with a 5-2 lead. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. 5-2 Mets in the 7th. Out in center field behind Turner Field.
It's a big baseball. Wish they were that big when I hit.
That's Health Report brought to you by Affinity Health Plan, serving the needs of New Yorkers for over 30 years. Josh Edgin made another rehab appearance today. It went well as he recovers from Tommy John surgery last year. And the Mets hope that Edgin will be ready in another couple of weeks. Hansel Robles in to pitch to Daniel Castro with a run home here in the 7th. 5-2 New York, and the slider in for a strike, 0-1.
Well, Robles, his last time out was the last game in Philadelphia, where he gave up the run in 2/3 of an inning. That ground ball down the line that David couldn't throw out Burgos.
Gave up the double to Freddie Galvis, who eventually came home with a winning run.
The wild pitch did him in.
Tapper toward third. Wright cuts it off and gets the out at second. And that's the second out. So Markakis erased on a 5-4 force.
Easy play for David here. Little Baltimore chop.
Now a decision for Terry Collins. You got Freddie Freeman coming up. He has Jerry Blevins ready in the bullpen. Do you go to Blevins here, or do you let Robles try and finish the inning?
I would go to Blevins, but I would not second guess here on this one.
Yeah, well, it's clear that Terry and Dan Worthen were a little unsure. They were talking about it for about 20 seconds before deciding to leave Robles in. So Freeman, who's 2 for 3 tonight, a single and a double, both when he was behind in the count 0-2. Now facing Robles, and he gets jammed and fouls one off.
Well, one thing about Robles, I should say, excuse me, Freeman, who's been struggling. He's got 2 hits tonight. But I think if you had a normal Freddie Freeman and a normal hot streak, or not off to the bad start, I think you would see the left-hander.
Castro at first and 2 out. backhanded by d'Arnaud. 1-1. So Matz threw 98 pitches over 6 1/3, allowed 9 hits and 2 runs so far. Didn't walk a batter, struck out 8, hit a batter, and has a chance to get his 2nd win of the year. Certainly not as dominant as he was against Cleveland last Sunday, but he made some big pitches in big spots. 1-1 to Freeman with Garcia on deck, a right-hand batter. And Freeman strokes one foul. 1-2.
Like to see him come up and in right now.
Mets have the shift on against Freeman. David Wright playing on the right side, just to the right of second base. Robles ahead, 1-2. Struck him out. Hansel Robles blows away Freddie Freeman to retire the side. Terry Collins decided to stay with the fireballing right-hander against Freeman, and Robles does the job. 5-2 New York. Brought to you by the new JetBlue card. We go to the 8th inning. Mets have led from the outset of 5-2. And the Braves will bring in their 4th pitcher of the night, right-hander Ryan Weber.
Well, they were very prescient. They made a bullpen move, a player move, to bolster their bullpen, and here they are now into their 3rd man in the bullpen in this game.
Weber last year made 5 starts for Atlanta. This will be his 2nd relief appearance this season. Juan Lagares leads off the 8th. He's 1 for 3 tonight, and he takes a rip at a first pitch fastball. 0-1. Alejandro De Aza out on deck to pinch hit for New York, and behind him Curtis Granderson. Mets, with their win last night, have won 5 straight games at Turner Field. Grounded down to 3rd. Big hop up to Garcia. And throw on target to get Lagares. You'll remember last year, the last time the Mets played here, they were down by 3 runs with 2 out and nobody on in the 9th inning. And Daniel Murphy hit a 3-run homer. They won in extra innings. It's the only time in Mets history they've ever been down 3 with 2 out and nobody on in the 9th and won a game.
Huh.
So it would seem as though, with the win last night and they're leading tonight, they've never won 5 games in a row in this ballpark before. That the Braves are maybe moving at the wrong time. Alejandro De Aza pinch hitting, takes the curveball for ball one. And they've never been able to win here. The Mets came into this season 60 and 103 at Turner Field. But now, just as they figured out how to win here, they're going to move to a new ballpark.
Well, the concoction has mainly been aided by what the Brave management has done here, which was pretty much blow this team up and go into a real full-throttled rebuilding mode.
That is the truth. De Aza with a line drive base hit. So Alejandro De Aza comes through with a pinch hit. It's just the Mets' third pinch hit in 18 at bats this year. And the first for De Aza. So 10 hits now for New York. And now Curtis Granderson, who's 1 for 3 in a walk. He scored 2 runs.
Weber just a little sinker baller. He's got to be careful not to get too sidearm, where his sinker becomes lazy and flat. He needs to get more on top.
Addison Reed getting ready to pitch the 8th inning for New York. Granderson pulls one into right field for a base hit. De Aza on the move. He's on his way to third. Picked up by Markakis. De Aza will be held at third. Granderson in at second with a double. So another 2-hit game from Curtis Granderson, and the Mets have 2 in scoring position.
Too much of the plate down and downstairs where Curtis likes it. And De Aza runs well, but the ball's cut off by Markakis, and Tim Tuffle wisely in a 3-run ball game holds him up.
So De Aza at third, Granderson at second, and the Braves are going to have to bring their infield in, already down by 3 runs in the 8th. With David Wright stepping in. David has doubled his last 2 times up. Down the right field line in the 4th, down the left field line in the 7th.
Chance for a big day.
David's already driven in 2 runs tonight. And at first one knocks him down.
Close but no cigar. But it did put him on his fanny.
So David dusts himself off, gets back in the box against the 25-year-old Weber. And the curveball in for a strike, 1-1. Michael Conforto waiting on deck. Mets are just 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The second one came from Cabrera in the 7th. Now Wright trying to deliver, and the curveball swung and missed. 1-2.
Stayed inside and bunched up David. You see, not a good cut.
So Weber needing a strikeout, ahead on Wright, 1-2. With the infield up. And he dodged the outside corner. Strike 3 call.
And it had the corner. It's a good pitch. Good pitch.
Second time David's been called out on strikes tonight.
Wanted it inside. Misses on the other part of the plate. And it's not low. It's on the knees. Plenty of play. That's a strike.
John Tumpain, the young home plate umpire, punching Wright out. So that's the second out of the inning, and now the infield can drop back with Michael Conforto coming up. Conforto's been on base 3 times tonight, 2 singles, a hit by pitch, his first major league stolen base. And he takes a curveball outside, and I would be shocked if he gets anything to hit here.
I am surprised that with a young pitcher out here that I'd be tempted just to give him 4 and take my chances with Duda.
Jim Henderson you saw up in the Mets bullpen now. Reed had been up a moment ago. 2-0 to Conforto. Well, it's no knock on Duda to say that this,
right,
if you're the opposing team, is the guy who scares you. Seems to be hitting line drives every time up right now. And a 2-0 curveball misses badly, and now it's 3-0. So they want no part of Conforto here. And they'll give him intentional ball 4. So Duda will come up with the bases loaded.
It's very unusual to see a young hitter given this much deference.
Well, he's earned it in a short period of time. 4th time he's on base tonight. Roger McDowell goes out to the mound to talk to Weber before he deals with Duda, who has a chance to break this game completely open with the bases loaded and 2 out in the 8th.
A bit surprised that a lefty wasn't up there for Freddie Gonzalez. He's got 2 of them. I mean, he threw a flattery last night, but he's got Hunter Seravenka out there.
Any relation to XC? It's the best way to start your weekday. Join Suki, Scott, and the Pix 11 News team with breaking news as it happens. Linda Church has the weather, and Caitlin Monte's traffic reports from 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. So here's Duda. We have the chance to bust the game open. Facing Ryan Weber with De Aza at 3rd, Granderson at 2nd, and Conforto at 1st. Duda's had 2 at-bats against Weber, 0 for 2. And he takes the first pitch low and away for ball 1. Duda 0 for 3 tonight. He did deliver a sacrifice fly in the 1st that brought in the first med run.
Huge at bat here. Just a base hit. Breaks it open. Got a big hole over to left center field.
Duda swings and flies one toward the left field line. Front court gets over and makes the catch to retire the side. And the Mets leave him loaded in the top of the 8th. Well, the Mets have squandered lots of chances to break this game open, but they've got themselves a 3-run lead going to the bottom of the 8th in Atlanta. Well, they had a big music festival today.
Traffic.
Oh, did you notice?
Oh, on the bus. Took the 3 o'clock bus, and it's Saturday, and usually there's never any traffic. It was like a week. It was like a weekday.
It seems as though every day in Atlanta is traffic day. Alejandro De Aza will stay in left field, and the new pitcher Addison Reed will hit 3rd in the order.
There's Addison right there. Pitched an inning last night. 2 strikeouts, a strong inning.
He was on the mound right after the rain delay as Rubel Cabrera made a throwing error, and then Reed retired the next 3. He'll face Adonis Garcia, Tyler Flowers, and Jeff Francoeur, the 3 scheduled hitters in the bottom of the 8th. The Mets 5 runs, 11 hits. The Braves 2 runs and 9 hits. Garcia 1 for 3 tonight, singled back in the 2nd against Steven Matz. Matz went 6 1/3, allowed 2 runs, 9 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts. And after Stevens' ERA was up over 30 following his first start, he's got it down to 5.40 now. Not where he wants it, but certainly a lot nicer territory than where it was. Ball strike to Garcia.
It's a long climb down. Oh, that's a wrong turn. It's a long
descent.
Can't climb.
Who can crawl? But he'd rather plummet in this case. 1-2 to Garcia. Hansel Robles did a nice job coming out of the bullpen in the 7th inning to get 2 big outs, including a strikeout of Freddie Freeman to end that 7th. And now Reed trying to take care of the 8th. 1-2, and Garcia fouls back the fastball.
Well, Reed gets a lot into every pitch. Not much of a leg kick. Look at the big shoulder lift. Doesn't drive off the mound for a guy that throws hard. Pretty upright.
Again, the 1-2. Just missed. We mentioned the Dodgers starter tonight, Kenta Maeda, pitching in Colorado for the first time. He's got a no-hitter through 5.
Wow.
He's off to a spectacular start. One of those Japanese pitchers who does not throw hard at all, but he's got every pitch in the book, and so far he has dominated.
So it would be, if he's got everything in the book, then he's control pitcher, off speed. It'd be a while for hitters to kind of catch on to him.
Well, there's quite a history of Japanese pitchers enjoying initial success in Major League Baseball. I mean, Hideo Nomo more than anybody else.
Right.
But even guys like Kaz Ishii, who came over and was immediately successful. Certainly Masahiro Tanaka has done that, and the question is, does that stuff play over a longer period of time? 8th pitch of the at bat coming, and Garcia fouls off another one.
I think a lot of the Japanese pitchers come over here and they don't have as many starts. The season's not as long, and
they're used to starting every week in Japan,
and they wear down. Plus, if this is a marathon at bat, plus they get a lot of the Japanese pitchers when they're older.
Right.
And then they complain never about the difference in the ball,
right,
the ball in Japan and the ball in the United States.
Well, Maeda is 28, and he was absolutely dominant in Japan. Going in, that's 11 pitches deep in this at bat for Garcia. And he grounds one to short. Cabrera knocks it down, has time, and throws him out. One away. So a 12-pitch marathon for Addison Reed. He finally gets Adonis Garcia.
No, that was a Donnybrook right there, and Reed comes out the winner.
By the way, just footnote on Maeda. You know who threw the first no-hitter at Coors Field? It was Hideo Nomo.
Yeah.
On a night when they had a 2-hour rain delay, the mound was very messy, and he pitched the entire game out of the stretch. Here's Tyler Flowers, who's 0 for 3. Flowers has struck out and twice fly to center tonight. Coming up on the Pix 11 News, it's Corey Chambers, and that's right after the game here. And on SNY, it's WB Mason post-game live. But I don't believe WB will be appearing.
Well, there's a Met fan in the background there. Had his Met uniform on.
A bunch of those. Hit toward the hole, and Flowers has a base hit. So Tyler Flowers, who used to catch Addison Reed with the White Sox, gets a base hit against his old battery mate.
swung the fastball away and missed on the inside part of the plate.
Hit number 10 for Atlanta. And now Jeff Francoeur, who has 2 of those hits. An infield single in the second. A hard hit up the middle his last time up. And we'll see whether Reed throws him a fastball in the middle of the plate. Nope. Slider away. Ball 1. Reed has faced Francoeur enough times. Frenchie's 3 for 12 against him. And that slider in for a strike. Always worries you when you're facing a team like the Braves that has had such a power drought that somebody at some point is going to get a hold of one. Braves have got 11 straight games without a home run, their longest homerless streak since 1983.
Well, a lot of it has to do with this ballpark. This is a big ballpark as compared to today's parks. Big gaps.
1-2. And Francoeur fouls it back. The Braves coming into the night, 3 home runs in their first 16 games. It's the fewest home runs that the Braves franchise has hit in the first 16 games of the season since they were the Boston Braves in 1937.
Wow. Before Warren Spahn.
Struck him out. Reed went to the slider to fan Francoeur for the second out. It's 10 strikeouts from Met pitchers tonight.
Well, don't have to throw Frenchie a strike. He can chase.
You think the folks in the Mets ticket office who did the strikeouts for savings promotion figured on this many strikeouts? Those tickets for the next homestand are more than 50% off now.
Well,
with all these strikeouts, and they still have another game tomorrow.
Can't renege.
No, I don't think so. Here's Ibar. What would happen if they struck out more than 100? They have to pay people to take the tickets? Ibar's 0 for 3.
It's like negative interest rates.
Exactly. Here, please. Hold my money and take some while you're holding it. Ibar 0 for 7 in this series, 9 for 64 to start the season. And he grounds this one to the right side. Walker's got it, and that retires the side. So Addison Reed with another scoreless inning, and that sends us off to the 9th with the Mets up 5-2. Tomorrow afternoon for the final game of this series. Jacob deGrom makes his return to the mound after the lat injury and his paternity.
Looking forward to that.
1:30 tomorrow right here on Pix 11. Play of the game brought to you by your local Infinity retailer. Mets were up 2-1 in the fourth when David Wright checked in.
Opposite field double, his second double of the game. I'm sorry, that was his first double of the game. He's had 2 in this game.
That made it a 4-1 game, and the Mets have been able to maintain that lead ever since. Neil Walker leads off in the top of the ninth against Ryan Weber, who starts his second inning and gets the changeup in for a strike. Walker is 0 for 3 and a walk tonight. Cabrera and d'Arnaud to follow. The Mets 5 runs, 11 hits. The Braves 2 runs and 10 hits. Mets trying to win their second straight here in Atlanta this year. Their 6th straight at Turner Field overall, which would be a record for them. Jerry's familiar up in the bullpen and trying to go to 6-2 on this road trip with 1 more to play tomorrow. I mentioned DeGrom goes for the Mets tomorrow. The Braves have yet to announce their starting pitcher. Everybody here in Atlanta thinks it's going to be Aaron Blair, who was one of the players the Braves got from Arizona in the Shelby Miller trade during the winter. Miller, meanwhile, has been awful. He has this thing where he follows through and scrapes his hand on the ground. He had to leave the game because of that. Then the other night he walked 4 batters in a row and was pulled in the 3rd inning.
That's drilled deep right field down the line. That ball is out of here. Neil Walker gets it out of the ballpark in about a second and a half. His 7th home run of the season. And the Mets now lead 6-2. What a bullet.
So they continue their home run hit parade.
22nd home run in the last 8 games for the Mets. And the 7 home runs in April tie the most Neil has ever hit in a calendar month. And he's still got another week to go.
Well, this is a BP fastball right here. Look at this. Oh my God, here, hit it. And he did. That's a bullet.
Neil Walker has been everything the Mets could have asked for and more. He's played second base just about flawlessly. He's hitting just under 300, 7 home runs in the first 16 games of the year. Even doing it from the other side of the plate where he had struggled in the past.
Cabrera strokes one down the right field line. That's headed toward the corner, and that ball is out of here. The Mets hit back-to-back home runs again. The 4th time in the last 5 games the Mets have gone back-to-back. As Dribble Cabrera's first home run as a New York Met. And the Mets now lead at 7-2. Well, Cabrera looked like he had his first home run in Philadelphia. That was ruled a fan interference double. No doubt about this one. And Cabrera's first home run gives the Mets a 5-run lead.
Oh boy, up a little more out. He had to let go with one hand. He just got it just right.
He was a little surprised that ball went out. So the double play partners combined for back-to-back home runs. Now d'Arnaud ducks one into shallow center, and that falls for a base hit. So Travis d'Arnaud gives the Mets their 3rd straight hit to start the top of the 9th. And let's look at that Cabrera home run again.
Watch him get out in front and let go with one hand. Right on the barrel of the bat.
It's a Kirk Gibson home run.
You'd be surprised how far that ball goes when you let go with one hand. You strike it just right.
That's amazing. 4 times in the last 5 games the Mets have hit back-to-back home runs. They did it all 3 games in Philadelphia, and they do it again tonight.
Well, there's no one up in the Braves bullpen. It's one of those, son, you got to find your way out of this mess.
Monday in Philly it was Duda and Walker going back-to-back. Tuesday it was Duda and Walker again. Wednesday Cespedes and Duda, and now Walker and Cabrera. The 3 in a row in Philly was the first time in their history the Mets had ever had 3 straight games where they went back-to-back, and now 4 times in less than a week.
Well, we said in spring training that the Mets had to feast.
That's driven to right center off the bat of Lagares, and that'll go all the way back to the wall. Darno digging for third. He'll be waved home. Lagares trying for third, and he'll make it standing with a triple and an RBI, and the Mets just tearing up Ryan Weber here in the top of the ninth. Lagares' RBI triple makes it 8-2.
Boy, this is disheartening. And ball up. There goes Roger McDowell on the mound. But this is just, he's throwing too much sidearm. He's got no sink, no velocity. It's a guy you can fatten up your average on. Lagares can fly. Look how he cuts those corners.
He had 5 triples last year. That's his first triple of this season. A 2-hit night for Lagares, who continues to take advantage of whatever playing time he gets. So the Mets with 4 straight hits to start this 9th inning. 2 homers, a single, and a triple. And now Alejandro De Aza will bat for the 2nd time at a pinch hit single in the 8th. Stayed in the game in left field. Braves bring the infield in. Well, Familia was up in the bullpen. I wonder whether he will still come in. Well, Logan Verrett is up. Now that's interesting because Terry said before the game Verrett probably wasn't going to be available in relief till tomorrow, after starting Tuesday night and going 6 innings.
I thought he said he was going to be available Saturday.
And he said tonight that it was not going to be till tomorrow. But Verrett must have said he was good to go because he's starting to get loose alongside Blevins.
Well, I think it's terrific that you don't have to go to Familia. You can have him ready for tomorrow. It's going to be an early day tomorrow. There's an out.
Maybe. In comes Francoeur. And he battles the wind and stays with it for the first out of the inning. Well, the other thing about tomorrow is you don't know how many pitches you're going to get out of DeGrom. He hasn't pitched in a couple of weeks. And although he threw a simulated game earlier this week down in St. Lucie, he only threw 70-some pitches. So I think they're going to cap him at around 85 tomorrow. So the Mets might need a little more bullpen. To make room for DeGrom on the roster, the Mets sent Rafael Montero back to Las Vegas. So Verrett now becomes the innings guy in that bullpen after 2 terrific starts in DeGrom's place. There's Granderson. The infield stays in with 1 out. Curtis tonight a single, a double, and a walk.
So DeGrom's lone start was way back in the first game in that Philadelphia series at home.
In the home opener.
Yep, that's right.
Pitched well, but came out of it with a little bit of a stiffness in his lat muscle, which led to him being pushed back, and then the baby arrived, and then the baby had the complications, and so it's been a while. But all is well with Jackson DeGrom, and all is well with Jacob DeGrom's lat muscle, and he is rearing to go tomorrow. 1-2 to Granderson in tight. Weber got in and out of trouble in the 8th inning, gave up the double to Granderson, got out of a bases loaded jam by getting Duda to fly out, but no such luck for Weber here in the 9th. He's been tagged for 3 runs already. And the curveball in there, strike 3 call. So Granderson caught looking for the 2nd out. 2nd strikeout for Weber.
Backdoor curve. He had to do something else. That fastball wasn't getting it done. The fastball was getting tattooed.
So now David Wright, whom Weber struck out in the 8th inning. David with 2 doubles, 2 RBIs tonight. Mets now with 8 runs and 15 hits. As they continue to beat up on the bullpens of these lesser teams. It certainly is a huge concern for the Braves.
Well, we said in spring training that the Mets were going to have to beat up on the second division ball clubs, and those specifically were the Phillies and this Brave team. Now they got off to a good start here with the Braves. Phillies are 3-3.
Phillies may be a little better than the Braves. Curveball in for a strike to Wright. Phillies are up 7-4 in Milwaukee tonight. If they win, they'll be back to 500 for the season. While the Braves, if they lose tonight, will be 4-13.
The Braves are their ship is sinking fast.
Well, certainly was no plan in Atlanta to try to compete for a position in the postseason this year. They just want to be competitive enough and build toward their future in their new ballpark with some of the young players they've stockpiled. Well, John Hart runs the baseball operations. John Coppolella now the general manager. And it is they who are trying to craft this plan to rebuild here in Atlanta. Started breaking it down 2 winters ago. And David strikes out for the second straight time. So that gets Weber through the top of the 9th. But the Mets with back-to-back home runs. Neil Walker got it started with a laser beam of a home run, and then he expressed some shock when his double play partner went deep as well. Brought to you by Land Rover, above and beyond. By Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. By your local Toyota dealer. Come test drive the all-new RAV4 Hybrid. Toyota, let's go places. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. By Heineken, open your world. And by Nissan, choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop choosenissan.com. Tonight's pitchers, Steven Matz in line for his second victory of the season. Went 6 1/3, struck out 8. Hansel Robles got 2 big outs in the 7th. Addison Reed a scoreless 8th. And now Logan Verrett, fresh off his start Tuesday night in Philadelphia, will try and get the final 3 outs.
91 pitches he threw at Philly, 6 innings, 6 hits, no runs. He filled in nicely for the missing DeGrom.
Well, 2 terrific starts. Didn't allow a run in either one. Drew Stubbs will lead off in the bottom of the 9th. Stubbs 1 for 3 tonight. And, now Verrett goes back to what was envisioned as his role.
Classic long relief. But this is a short reliever. This is a mopping up job right here.
Yeah, this is saving Familia for tomorrow. Out to center field. On comes Lagares, and that's the first out. So Stubbs is retired, and now Malik Smith will be a pinch hitter.
Smith has been playing most of the center field since Ender Inciarte went on the disabled list. It's going to be another couple of weeks for Inciarte. He played just 3 games before he went down. He was a valued piece that the Braves got back from Arizona in that Shelby Miller trade. But Smith called up to take his spot, has shown off his speed. An RBI double in the game yesterday. And Smith wailing at the breaking ball, 1-1. Red has had the perfect attitude about his role. He knew exactly what he was being called upon to do, knew that no matter how well he pitched in DeGrom's starts that he missed, that he was going back to the bullpen through 12 scoreless innings and never a peep. 3-1 now to Smith.
I'm sure Logan's just tickled to death to be on the big league. Break the club. Break with the club after spring training. To be in the big leagues.
There's a strike, 3-2. Well, DeGrom will be back where he belongs tomorrow on this Turner Field mound, ready to get back to work. Smith chops one down to third.
Oh.
David Wright with the do-or-die pickup, and he throws out the speedy Smith for the second out.
Nice play. We know David has the good hands. Quick to come in for the short hop, and not an easy play. That's an in-between hop. Nice backhand.
The Red likes it, and thus the Braves are down to their final out of the night. And Nick Markakis, who drove in a run in the 7th inning with a base hit, 1 for 3 on the night. That was the last batter Steven Matz faced. And the bullpen has done the job from there. Good curveball from Barrett to start him off.
Well, the Met bullpen has been outstanding this year, so thus far.
One to Markakis. Well, Steven Matz will become the first Met ever to win 6 of his first 9 big league starts. Walker down to one knee, and the ball game is over. Barrett gets the final 3 outs. Steven Matz gets his 2nd win of the year. Mets hit back-to-back home runs for the 4th time in the last 5 games as they overwhelm the Braves 8-2.
And another nice outing from Steven Matz. As you mentioned, Gare, 6 1/3. He gave up 9 hits. But he pitched tough when he had to get the outs with men on base. Only gave up 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. He goes to 2-1. Walker and Cabrera home runs. Yet again, the Mets hit back-to-back home runs tonight. Walker first for 7th. Cabrera his first.
And David Wright with the biggest hit of the night, a 2-run double that got the Mets up 4-1. Game summary brought to you by Jeep. 7 home runs for Neil Walker. That matches the most he's ever hit in a calendar month, and he's got a week to go in April. Mets go 2 games over 500 for the first time this year. 9-7 on the season. They're now 6-2 on this road trip with 1 game left to play. That's tomorrow here on Pix 11. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock as Jacob deGrom makes his return to the mound for New York. Our next SNY telecast Monday night when the Mets get home with Noah Syndergaard on the mound. Coverage begins 6 o'clock Monday night on SNY. Coming up next, it's the Pix 11 News with Corey Chambers, and coming up on SNY, it's WB Mason post game live. Now for Keith Hernandez, Steve Gelbs, and our entire crew, I'm Gary Cohen in Atlanta. Time for the Pix 11 News with Corey Chambers.